In this video, I'm going to be giving the ninjas some evil ninja suits, and then along with that, giving them full evil general suits, turning each ninja to a villain. Let's get to it. Let's start off with the ninjas that I colored into Jay's form. Here is Lloyd. I pretty much decked him out in the obvious choices with the dark green at the top as well as the light green at the bottom. Nia, who actually uses a ton of light blue and white as her secondary color, and then you also have a ton of dark blue on her mask. For Cole, I pretty much used his normal mask, but I actually made the orange a lot darker, and on his arms you can see that there are dark arms, and then there's a ton of orange splattered all over the torso and legs. Next up is Zane, who I just used white for the top, and then added a ton of white all around the torso's figure, and some light blue on the arms. And here we have arguably the worst minifigure that I colored up, Kai. It has a ton of yellow and orange. That probably doesn't work very well, and the mask is very dark, and I don't think I did that right. Starting off with our first minifigure, Kai. Now, Kai was the first ninja to achieve the Rising Dragon Strike and become a third Fang ninja, and he is literally the GOAT of Dragon's Rising Season 2. For his torso, I decided the best piece that would fit in with the Wolf Mask theme as well as the Fire theme would be Misdemeanor's torso from Dragon's Rising. The cool fire effects with the gunmetal torso works very well for a Kai that is turned evil. For Kai's armor piece, I decided to use Lord Roz's armor piece just in red. This piece was actually in the Stone Army minifigures from 2012. And all in all, this figure doesn't come out too bad. For the legs of this minifigure, I decided to go with a rather obvious choice, that being Jordana's legs. And since I was happy with the head, we now had to find a weapon. Now, I decided to take a scissor and then cut up a sword to make it look like it is sort of broken, but at the same time, you can see little gray things on it. This made the katana look more like it was smoking hot, and I actually went ahead and took one of those 1x1 trans orange pieces and put it at the top of the sword to give it a more like fire effect, and Kai's using his fire powers to create that. Here's the final minifig after coloring. I added some fire to the blade to make it pop more. I also added some dark blue accents to the guard as well as the bottom of the sword. And then you can also see I just threw in a ton of dark blue all over his torso and his tracksuit as a whole. Oh, and make sure to hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, Brickside Predator Man will come and break all your Lego sets. But actually, we're trying to get to 10k, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now we're done with our Kai minifig, let's move on to Arin. Believe it or not, I said this about 6 months ago in our last video. Kind to pretty much everyone. I can't imagine him joining forces with Lord Raz, but I mean, we have to do it for, I guess, this video. That aged quite badly. Lloyd really was selling on this one. Like, how do you ignore your student that bad? Like, Lloyd, buddy, what have you been doing for 1 year? Now thinking about it, Arin isn't really even a ninja anymore, so should he even be in this video? Anyway, Arin and Zane actually have these special hair pieces where their hair doesn't hit the back of their head, meaning I could use this vermilion armor piece from Commander Ragmonk and it would fit perfectly. But then if you took a figure like Lloyd, it won't work. For the torso for this minifigure, I decided to give him the Wolf Mask Blood Moon torso, and then gave him the normal Wolf Mask Warrior legs that had those like key looking things to make it more like a general. Now for this guy's weapon, I have 4 different choices. The first weapon is going to be handcuffs and a key. Hear me out. He uses his Spinjitzu cone, traps someone in it, and then cuffs them. And he could even make bangstone cuffs to lock up the ninja. Next up, I made a pie fishing hook. Now, since Arin's pies are so good, he can literally attract anyone, especially Cole. And when Cole's too busy stuffing his mouth face first, Arin could attack him. Next up are 2 hammers. Now think about it, this could be so OP. With his object Spinjitzu powers, he could literally take these hammers and throw them at anyone and knock them out instantly. The other weapon he could have is a pie launcher. Pretty much you put a pie on a launcher, shoot it at anyone, and then they're left in a big sticky mess. Of these 4 different ideas or options, I am going with the hammers. Here is the colored Arin minifigure sporting a ton of new red detail, and also on his hammers he has a ton of red as well as black handles. Moving on to our next minifig. If you like to do stop motion animation or like to voice act, we have the perfect Discord server for you. Not only does everyone give each other a bunch of animation tips and mecha bricks tips, we also post these cool collabs that you might have seen. So make sure to hit that link in the description to join our community. Next up, moving to Zane, who was pretty much the GOAT all the way back in the earlier seasons, but honestly now with Dragon's Rising he kinda fell off, he kinda got nerfed. But with the lineup of the new Dragon's Rising Season 3 sets, hopefully Zane gets some more focus. Now for Zane, most would just consider using the scout body and parts and then putting it on him because they both shared the same bow and arrow type weapon. But one figure that I really want to use is Moon Knight. Moon Knight's hood actually has a moon on it, so it's great for Blood Moon-like characters. And personally, I think this is a really good piece for a ninja that's transitioning to the evil side. For the armor piece, I decided not to use a Torning armor piece, instead use this Chima armor piece because, let's be honest, if Zane joins Roz is going to have a ton of Chima stuff. And so therefore this armor piece would be practically perfect. As for his arms, I actually want to give him some good sidearm printing, so I got these arms from this like Lego DC character, and you can see it in its full here. It has these little guns so he can shoot out of his own hands. And the torso is from one of those Shark Army thugs from the Ninjago movie. For the legs, I decided to go with legs from this guy. It's just those, legs that Arin also used. At first, I was going to go with this crossbow, but honestly, it doesn't look too great. I was going to also go with this bow and arrow from Zoe from the Dreams line because it has the purple color scheme that matches the Blood Moon color scheme. But instead, I decided to use these shurikens and the piece inside the middle. This piece in the middle kind of looks like a little spider, so this is something Zane could use and throw around. And then on his other hand, I just simply gave him a shuriken. And so now we're done with the figure. This is the final coloring. For this, I actually added a ton of red, but let's start with the shuriken. The shuriken actually has a different color scheme. It has a dark blue and red color scheme. Now, moving on to the armor is now also red instead of silver with a blue chest arc reactor looking thing inside. On his legs, you can see that there are a ton of different red accents, and the little spider droid he's holding has some more red as well as gray on it. On his head, you can see the Moon Knight mask has some red on it, as well as his eyes being red to illustrate his newly found Blood Moon side. And so now we are done with Zane. Moving on to Sora. Now Sora has arguably some of the best fights in the tournament. It is really just a well-written character overall. With Sora now being the new master of tech, there are actually a lot of cool things you could do with her. Now I want to actually choose something with these arms, so I took a Lego flyer and then put it on her back. And then I actually attached the arms to the flyer on the back, so that way she can fly with like these cool arms with claws on it. And now for the torso and legs, I decided to go with Jordana's body for the torso, an obvious choice, along with the legs for one of those wolf mask warriors, and then put it onto her, which honestly looks not that bad in my opinion. Also for weapon, I decided to make this little gun with this like blue thing at the end. I'm going to later recolor that so it's not blue. But I actually want to add something else to make our Sora minifigure better, roller skates. Simply add roller skates to her legs or put them on the back of her jet. The roller skates could help her walk much faster on land and move much faster in general. As for the final colored minifigure, I made the panels pink as well as the gun shoot pink at the very end of it, and added some red accents to the overall torso and red to her cat ears and her headphones. Now that we're done with Sora, we can move on to Nia. Next up, and moving on to our Nia minifigure, I actually want to do something very weird. I want to use a Sora minifigure for this Nia build. Sora actually uses the Season 1 Dragon's Rising piece in dark blue, which is really good and looks evil because it matches the Blood Moon or the Wolf Mask Warrior color scheme. So this would honestly be a great piece to start off with for the armor of this ninja. Now moving on to match the dark blue color scheme, I actually used a Wolf Mask Warrior's torso because I mean, what else can we really do if we're going to do that color scheme? And then for the legs, I used Jordana's legs, which is to add some more gunmetal gray, which happens to also be Nia's secondary color. Now for the weapons on this minifigure, I was going to actually use these Wolfmask General blades because in Seabound, the people use this kind of blade, and so I thought it'd work well for Nia. But instead, I actually want to do a full-on staff with this blade at the very top because Nia's weapons are like tridents and spears, so this works well. And so now for the final colored picture. And so you can probably see I added a ton of red onto this minifigure. You can see the blades on the torso are red as well as are the markings. And you can also see on the armor piece, the secondary color is red, along with more red on the legs and more red on the spear. The only thing that I didn't make red was actually the headband, which I turned from light blue to dark blue. And so that is it for our Nia minifigure. Now moving on to Cole. Cole has a lot of awesome powers, ranging from the Earth Golem all the way to his RX powers. Now, since Cole is more stereotypically bulky, I decided to give him Roz's armor, but then I realized a better armor would actually be Cole's armor from the mech suit. because it better exemplifies him and actually has the same colors of that of the Blood Moon Wolf Mask Warriors. For the torso of this minifigure, I chose to use Jordana's torso again because I thought it honestly works very well for this figure. And then for the legs, I went with Roz's legs because Roz is the bulky guy on the other side, so Cole probably should have this. Now for this minifigure, the hardest part, the weapons. So for the weapons, I decided to go ahead with a rage blade connected to a lightsaber sort of thing to make a full-on scythe. Yes, I used a rage blade for the blade and it is quite big, but personally I think it's fine. And it does exemplify those Blood Moon color schemes, as you know, you see all the trans red and stuff. Here is the colored final version of Cole. You can see that there is a ton more orange on his legs, as well as a ton more brighter colors on his torso, as well as rest of body. You can see on his armor, he actually has some light red as well as dark blue as part of the armor, something extra I added. And yeah, that is the final minifigure. Now that we're done with Cole, we are now moving on to Lloyd. I have no clue how this might ever happen because Lloyd is literally the heart of the ninja team, and if he were to join Roz, everything would go crazy. Lloyd, like the purest soul you can probably find. Like, unless he's like memory wiped like Jay, I couldn't really see anything like this happening. For this minifigure, I decided to go with Cinder's torso because honestly, I felt like that would work the best. The shape of Cinder's torso seems a bit like a ninja, and I think Lloyd would be more like a ninja with that villain color scheme. And then I also added Misdemeanor's legs onto him because personally that doesn't look that bad. And then along with that, I was going to add a Shatterspin armor, but I actually do have something a little cooler in mind, so I went ahead and stuck with this golden armor piece, which I'll later color change. Now as for the weapons, I have no clue what I'm going to do for this one either. I decided to end up just cutting a katana to make one of those smaller silver katanas since we have one for the golden and we never got one for the silver. So here we have Lloyd with the silver katana as well as a normal katana, and then also rage blades with shurikens on them. For the final colored minifigure, I actually didn't do that much. I just added some more color to the blades, but also for the shurikens, I made them a gunmetal gray and a red. And then for his armor piece, you could see I made it completely silver. Now that we're done with Lloyd, we are now moving to Wyldfyre, who is last but not least. Actually, you know what? I might take that one back. All she had to do was shoot the flag, and guess what she does instead? All the side missions! Bro is D1 slacking. One thing I do have to give to this Wyldfyre minifigure is her hairpiece. Like, that looks absolutely amazing. Now for her armor, I decided to give her Shatterspin because she really does need it. For the torso, I gave her the one that the Wolf Mask generals usually use. And lastly, gave her the legs from a Blood Moon Wolf Mask Warrior. You know a cool technique you can do with these like Wolf Mask Warriors with those big hand things? You can actually break off all the nail things and then put it together to create this like cool Shatterspin, and then you can take a ton of cool pictures with it. In fact, if you have two of those big guys, you can actually do a full circle of this, and you can make all kinds of really weird shapes that honestly look pretty cool in a photo shoot. But now we need to figure out what her weapon is going to be, and I think I have a pretty cool idea. So first get 3 of these like clip pieces and then put them on this aerobatic piece. This one is from Talk specifically, and then once you got that, you can actually take these like little fire pieces and put it around the arrow blade. And then after that, don't get this like trans orange stud, but if you have this Chima fire one, you can go ahead and put it onto that blade, and then it's like sort of a pretty cool little arrow blade made out of fire that Wyldfyre can use. Here is the final colored version. You can see like sort of like the nail looking things on the side of her armor is actually light red, and then you can also see for the arrow blade I colored that red, brightened up some other things, completely finished coloring the Shatterspin. But yeah, that is the figure. And so now that we are done with Wyldfyre, we are technically done with everyone. Let's go. Make sure to tell me who's your favorite in the comments below. And that's it for this video. Bye.